Yes, we are now on the streaming page. Okay, so hello and welcome for anyone who's watching on Jewish Live or one of the other streaming platforms. Here we are in our third week of the new cycle, new Mussar cycle for Jewish wisdom for coping with the pandemic. Today we are going to be starting 2 weeks on patience. Does anybody here feel that their patience has been challenged lately? Yeah, I see a lot of us. That certainly has been the case for me. And while we normally start with a meditation, I'm actually going to start with a little discussion first. So I'm going to put up a slide, and this was a question that I was asked. I'm not taking, can you see the slide? Yeah, okay, great. So I was asked a question. I'm now taking a Mussar class in rabbinical school. It's really one of the reasons why I like it is they actually do teach Mussar. They teach other sort of spirituality and Hasidism. So the teacher asks, okay, well, what do you need to park in order to be present right now? And as I wrote in the email, like that was right. We were just talking about the air quality before we started, and I was completely obsessed with it. And I'm checking the air quality, and I'm checking it. You know, I'm in San Carlos, so I'm checking 20 miles to the north, and I'm checking 20 miles to the south, and I'm checking across the bridge, and trying to figure out where is the air better and worse, and is it the wind going to change? And so this was really became like an obsession where I was checking every 15 minutes. So I realized that I needed to park checking my phone if I was in checking the air quality, if I was going to be present. So before our meditation today, I'm going to stop the share. I'd like to know, what do you need to park in order to be present today?
I have something big. I'm the president of my condo association, and we're having a terrible growing brouhaha in the building. And I suspect it has a lot to do with the heat and the pandemic and everything, but it's been involving talking to lawyers on a daily basis and management and everything. And when I tried to meditate this morning, I couldn't clear my mind. It's just all there. So I definitely need to park that business and bring myself more into my center.
Okay, so let's all help Gail visualizing taking that issue and just moving it right into a little parking space. Hey, who else has something they need to park in order to be present? John.
Yeah, Greg, I identified so much with what you said about the air quality. I have two things. One is the weather, and the other is just Facebook. And it is kind of an obsession for me, and I'm trying to put it down, and then I forget and just go back to it again. And there's really an element of a FOMO, what some people call FOMO, fear of missing out. What if a friend of mine posts something to Facebook and I miss it? So I got to keep checking. And of course, I think one of the problems with that is that while you're doing all that checking, you're actually missing something else, you know? So, so I struggle with that. So I really did identify really kind of strongly with how hard it is, you know, to kind of put those things aside. So I'm struggling with that.
Great. Okay, so let's all close our eyes and help John for the next hour park the Facebook and concerns about the weather in a nice big parking space where it can be retrieved after we meet. Who else has something they need to park in order to be present right now? That's it, just the three of us with stuff that needs to be parked. Okay, that's fine. Janos.
Well, at the moment, I need to park my anger. Many things come together because I thought that being 66 with two grandkids will be more kind of, no, my life is very still turbulent. And the life, the COVID, the aging, the heart attack, I mean, everything is happening so I'm becoming angry with just nobody. I'm not particularly anyone, but simply just thinking that how difficult it is for me to be able to prioritize what is important, what's not important.
Mm.
And what's essential, what's not essential. And then when I'm not able to do that, it frustrates me, then I become angry. But then I use that anger in a positive way. I don't do anything crazy, but it just that I would like to park that anger, just park somewhere and run away.
Okay, so let's all close our eyes and visualize Janos's anger getting parked into a nice big parking space way in the back corner of the parking lot where we don't need to visit it for a little while.
I need to park my phone. That's how simple it is. Just park the phone, Wendy.
Park the phone. Okay, let's all close our eyes and visualize Wendy's phone moving into its own parking space. Okay. Well, now that we've gotten some examples of things we need to park, let's move into our meditation. So get comfortable and close your eyes. And taking a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next exhale, just exhale a little extra. Let a little bit more stress and tension leave your body. And as you go at your own pace of inhaling through the nose and holding, and exhaling through the mouth and holding, thoughts should come into your head. Just guide them to a parking place. Allow them a time to rest. And leave them aside for the next hour. Now you are safe and whole. As we create this sacred space together. Right now, all we need to do is inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we're listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Let me know in the chat, how present are you feeling right now?
Pat here. I do feel more present than when I entered, and I realized one of the thoughts that I know that I parked it during it, but I want to share it now because it might be something that other people are experiencing, and that is COVID weight gain that I've experienced. It's hard to park because it goes with me everywhere I go. And so it's really been a distraction. And but it does help me to do that exercise of breathing and slowing myself down, giving myself permission to put that on hold.
Great, thank you, Pat. It's a good segue into our topic for today, which is patience. And let's see. As those of you who've been coming know, we usually start with one of the 4 assumptions to help guide us into our practice. And the assumption, which is particularly important now, is this idea is that we all have a divine spark and it's occluded by our baggage. And so, you know, when we're talking about, you know, this idea of parking things, how might the divine spark play a role and be helpful with that?
I would like to think that the people who support Donald Trump have a divine spark. I would like to think that there's something in me that can connect with them. I don't know that I can do that at this point. I'm frightened.
Right, so if you're trying to, that's one of the challenges with the divide in our country right now, is this inability to see the spark in others. There's a lot of anger and fear that's involved, and that makes it a challenge. You know, one of the reasons why I call these assumptions is it comes back to my days when I was in marketing and I would make financial forecasts, and you would make these assumptions like, so many people come into the store and they spend X amount of money, and if you assume those things are true, you can make decisions about your business. And so by making this assumption, you don't actually need to believe it's true. You just need to act as if it were true. And you know, it can be a challenge. I mean, I think there are, you know, there's pretty good, you know, from a spiritual standpoint, the Torah is pretty clear on this point, but there are some people whose actions make it hard to see baggage or to see the spark, or sometimes our own baggage makes us particularly sensitive to certain issues. So for some of the more mundane things that we talked about, like, you know, parking the phone, you know, parking distractions like Facebook, or even something a bit more challenging like parking anger, how might remembering the divine spark be helpful to us as we try to park these things?
For me, it's a reminder to show respect as I go through my day, however that might, wherever and however that might be necessary. So my tendency to be impatient, for instance, when somebody's in line in front of me, or when there's a when I'm driving and somebody does something I consider not the wisest move, whatever it might be, it helps me then to step back and go, that person deserves my respect. And I could add to that, as much as I would like their respect.
Mm.
So in response to Janet, I think that would be maybe something to remind yourself of. I know I'm sounding like I'm giving advice. It's a response to what you said, that when I go through it too, when somebody's on the other side of the aisle, I can consciously say to myself, I want to give that person the same respect that I want them to show me.
Yes, thank you. Not everyone is sure about the divinity. And so you can think about this as, the best part of humanity, or that sort of common, a thread of common goodness, which is shared by all people. But there's another element of Mussar practice, which isn't inconsistent with that, is that sometimes we're looking to emulate, traits that are ascribed to the divine. So again, if we look at, the story when God passed by Moses and cried out, Adonai, Adonai, v'hanun, et cetera, one of the attributes was patience. The divine is patient.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I can find it helpful. I don't often remember to do this, but sometimes when I can, it's like, all right, that's sort of what I'm striving to be, is to be patient with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they've really messed up or they've really done something that's hurtful. Trying to be patient with them, even when they've seriously pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
And even just getting a tiny bit of remembering that can really make a big difference, to just take a little bit of the edge off.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say something?
Ariella, absolutely.
Just during the time of COVID and everything, let me see, did it jump out of my mind? Something that I have learned from the work that I have done with parents is that, like for children, that there is no throwaway behavior, that we can learn something from every behavior. Sometimes we think, oh, I can't stand this. Just stop it. Just go away. well, I'll get it out of you, give you, and that. But just listening in that moment, is very helpful for me. When someone is bugging me, even just to stop and go inside for a minute and think, what is it here that's bugging me? I'm not in charge. I can't change anybody except myself. But is there a lesson in this? Mm-hmm. And I must say, in answer to what Janet also spoke of, that for me it's very, very, I'll say it here, it's very, very difficult if the TV is on and I hear the voice of our leader. It's very hard for me. It's just like so triggering. And I think that after listening to this Mussar, I need to just see, what is this about, that I cannot listen to someone whom I don't trust and don't feel that he has our best interest at heart and everything, so that's really a new idea that comes from this. Thank you for letting me share.
Can I just add something quickly? What I've been doing is I park him.
What you do?
Right, so without going too far, I appreciate that people are sharing their own experiences. And I also want to be sensitive that, we here are open to people from a wide variety of viewpoints. I don't know who may be, who else may be here. So, let's not spend too much time on this particular topic. I want to dig in a little bit more on patience itself. This is something we read the last time we worked on patience, but I think it's worth reading again. May I have a volunteer to read the first bullet?
Greg, we have a black screen. There's
Right,
nothing on the screen but
I
black.
don't know why. I
I
don't.
don't see anything.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Let's share the screen again. How about now?
Better.
Well, I haven't. I'll read. What is patience? A patient person is actually like one who lifts a heavy load, and even though it is heavy for him, he continues to walk in his way, and he does not refuse to bear it. This is how it is.
Joanne, let's pause there.
Okay.
So what is the analogy here? What is patience? What is a patient person like?
Like someone carrying a load.
Yeah,
Mm,
not just
Yeah.
any load, a heavy load.
a heavy load.
And he's not giving up.
This
It
is
reminds me of when I worked out at the gym.
Patience.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I work out at the gym, and I have to be patient with myself. It's a simple metaphor for me that says, well, if I'm doing, an extra 100 pounds and lifting it, and it's a struggle, if I keep trying and I stick with it, I will get stronger.
Mhm. That's great. Yeah, and you have to keep trying and stick with it. So
Mm,
again, and if it's just like, I'm just going to do some light stretching, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's not a challenge in that either. And by that analogy, we wouldn't need patience in that, in that situation. We just kind of, listen to our music, do our stretching, whatever. Okay, Joanne, please continue.
Okay. This is how it is in all relationships among people. Sometimes the friend has actually injured us with an all-encompassing sting, with an unreasonable demand, with an unjustified claim. And with all that, we are patient, just like the one who bears a heavy load. Outbursts of anger or forceful rejection is like throwing off the load.
Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
So if we extend that analogy, we're lifting this heavy load, we're in a relationship with someone, it's a friend, it's not a stranger on the street, and they've done something which is really hurtful to us. And so the one hand is we can just be patient, we keep bearing the heavy load. And then what happens if we have an outburst of anger or a forceful rejection? It's like throwing off the load. What are the implications for the relationship then?
Not good. Doesn't have a good future.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I think it's like trying to put the load back on the person that hurt you. Like, you carry this load. It's not my load, you carry it. But in reality, it's both their loads. Belongs to both of us. And what we do with it depends on, if you're patient, ideally, you wouldn't just sit there and be patient and just sit with it forever. You would say, I'm carrying this load and we need to talk about this. We need to work it out and carry it together.
It's a wonderful analogy, Carol, and that's a very important point. We wouldn't want to take from this, it doesn't matter how much they dump on you, just keep carrying it, just keep hanging in there. No, that's not a conclusion that we should take from this. But it is important to remember that there is work in all relationships, whether they're close or whether they're theoretical. Are we still citizens of one country? Do I actually have a relationship with people on the other side of the aisle? Does that person who spouts off on Facebook, is that someone who I'm in a relationship with? Do I want to be in a relationship with them? So that's these are good questions to ask, but to be in that relationship means that we are open to having to do some carrying. Does that make sense?
You know, it does. And there's another way that I look at it as well. And that is that oftentimes when a person, especially if it's an emotional injury of some sort, when a person does that, it usually isn't about me if they're doing it to me. And so my task, as I understand it, is to let them have whatever it is, whatever that issue is, let them have it. I'm not going to take it. It's theirs. My response is what I own and what I'll carry, but not carrying whatever it is that they've just tried to give me. You know what I'm saying? It's like knowing what's mine and what isn't. And I think that's a different point of view. At least that's how I hold that.
And I think that if the other party is not willing to carry part of that load, then I would wonder if I want to be in any relationship with that person at all, or if I could be in a relationship with that person at all. So sometimes, depending on the situation, it is time to walk away, or at least give some space for a while.
I find when I'm in those kinds of situations, I remind myself that my reaction is mine. It's mine, and what their perspective is theirs. And in that, it gives us space to reflect. And for me, I will have to do some self-help or self-work.
Thank you, Wendy. I think that's an important part of the Mussar journey, that ultimately this is about us and how we deal with things. And there's sometimes where we want to put in the work, and sometimes where we need to say, I'm feeling really injured. Was that an injuring thing they did? Or is that something I need to think about and work on? Or is it, this is just not a relationship that I want to put in this much work? Janos, I see your hand is up.
Well, it reminds me of the second agreement. He says, don't take anything personally. Just think about it.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had many people tell that to me when I was in the corporate world. Don't take it personally, and it all felt personal. Almost never. It was almost never personal.
Well,
yeah, Joanne?
yeah, so I've had an experience that I guess I didn't handle very well, but it was personal. And I was very offended. And I actually posted something. Someone called me a self-hating Jew. And this was one of those political things, like I didn't agree with him, so I must be a self-hating Jew. And so I actually posted, I don't know if you know this book, Rabbi Talishkin has a book of Jewish literacy. And there was a section in there on self-hating Jews, and it says, people using this expression for someone who doesn't agree with them. And that's not what it means, Yeah. It's like, I have my view, and it even gives an example, and it's like,
Yeah, that is one of my.
I'm not a self-hating Jew. Never mind.
Very, very hurtful, and
that's a terrible thing to say to someone.
Yeah, it's not. It's throwing. That's what I would call throwing off the load.
Yeah.
This disagreement is too painful for me, so it's your problem. You're the self-hating Jew. I'm not willing to put in the work to learn your point of view.
Right.
Okay, let's move on. I got a couple more tidbits I want to get to today. Second bullet here from Rabbi Shlomo Volpe, it's impossible to build a relationship of a good community without patience. What's he talking about?
that in a community, you have people that come from all different ways of belief and religions, and you have to wait it out and brainstorm together to get something accomplished.
Yeah, thank you. And remind me your name again is?
Vicki.
Vicki, thank you. Thank you, Vicki. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of variety within a community. And we can't be patient with one another. How can we get anything accomplished? How can we even, I mean, I think this even goes further. It's like you can't even have a community without patience.
Yeah, yeah.
You can have a group. You can have people that pay taxes to the same government, but is it a real community without patience? I would say, Rabbi Volbe would say in this case, no.
So can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is it possible to reframe it as the idea of patience as acceptance? So in other words, I can be accepting of someone else even when it doesn't sit right with me, or it's difficult. The idea of with patience for me is acceptance. That seems to me to be at the heart of it.
Very rarely does impatience turn out to be a positive result. I'm serious. I'm 66, and I can tell you that impatience does not produce positive results. And I think that's what we're all after, is a positive result.
I mean, I would say, to comment directly on Pat's question, I would say that acceptance can be a tactic to help with patience, but you cannot be accepting and still be patient. You know, it's like, I don't agree with people who, you know, don't wear face masks, you know, and I can't accept that. That's unacceptable behavior to me, but I'm not going to act out. You know, I'm going to maintain my patience, because patience is a measure of how I'm going to act in the world. But at the same time, I can accept that that's the way they are, you know, and trying to change the way they are is going to cause me a lot more frustration. So they're not exactly the same, they're complementary.
You're saying the same thing that I'm saying. That's what I mean.
Yeah, okay, great.
Well, can one have too much patience? I mean, look at John Lewis. He wasn't willing to wait.
Look at who? Janet, I didn't hear the example you gave.
Yeah, I was thinking of, is it John Lewis who just died?
Yes, John Lewis.
He talked about, he wasn't about to wait for the rest of the world to catch up to where he was. He wanted to change things and wasn't going to wait.
I think that is a great question, and I will skip ahead to here. Like all soul traits, absolutely, having too much patience is not always a good thing. For those of you who saw my email today, the NBA and a number of other sports teams said, we're tired of being patient. You know, in the 60s, most white Americans said civil rights are moving too quickly. You know, we don't need a Voting Rights Act, which is slow down. Like, no, we're not, there's not the time for more patience to just wait. You know, had to take action. So that's a good segue to this next section, because the question is, if it's not the time for patience, then how might we take action? And are there ways to take action with patience? So has anyone here, I can only see a few of you, read Changing the World from the Inside Out by David Jaffe?
No.
It's a wonderful, wonderful book. It's all about how Mussar practice can help you drive.
Sounds good.
And it's how can we use these different soul traits to help us in some of these different situations. And if we're not in, and it's wonderful, because if we're not in control of kind of our own soul traits, if we are bringing our own issues to whatever we're trying to fix, then we're going to be less effective, and we might be doing as much harm as we are doing good. Like once I went to a Bend the Arc meeting, and they were trying to get everyone to stay and write postcards afterwards. And I got up to leave, and someone said, "Oh, not everybody's writing a postcard." And I wasn't in the same district, the voting district, and I had to go pick up my kid. But this sort of shaming behavior, wanting like so badly to do the right thing, that it ended up alienating me. Really, annoyed the heck out of me. So, so let's, may I have a volunteer to read? So this is an example in his chapter on patience that David Jaffe gave me. Someone can have a volunteer to read this, please.
I'll read.
Thanks, Phil.
Michael Ushman didn't want to be an angry activist. He brings a reusable bowl with him to avoid styrofoam. He said, "I am deeply committed to not doing environmental damage, and I don't want to cut you down emotionally or shame you for behaving in ways that are normal for your society. Rather, I demonstrate that we are on the same side. It might take 15 or 20 years, but we will get there."
50 years.
So he was concerned, about environmental activism, about, he saw a picture of the hole in the ozone when he was a kid. So what is his approach to patience? What are some things that resonate with you or that you object to from this approach?
If David Jaffe is concerned about the hole in the ozone, then the coronavirus has, because people aren't using the cars, the hole in the ozone is actually shrunk, according to science.
Because people are what?
Because people are not using their cars and going out as much as they used to, because the whole world has changed in the way they spend their time. The petrol, the hole in the ozone that's caused by the car usage has gone down so much that it has affected the hole in the ozone. Our behavior has changed, and it has implications on the environment.
That is certainly true. I think what
I'm not condoning the coronavirus. I'm just saying that it has caused us to change our behavior. And that's really what everything is about, us changing our behavior.
That is absolutely true. It is very much about us changing our behavior.
And the coronavirus forced us to do it.
Yes, that what you're saying
has been, beyond all the deaths, there has been some positive things that have happened. And I'm also talking about
thing, but I want to bring us back to this idea of this, because what we were talking about was if there's a change that you want to make in the world. Like where we were is, okay, sometimes too much patience is bad. And sometimes, all right, I need to take some action. And so this is—
Excuse me, could I ask people who are not speaking to put on their mute themselves, because I'm hearing a lot of rumbling and I'm impatient.
Okay. So the question is, if we are going to take action, what are some things that we might take from this, aside from the sorts of science issues and science implications?
Ray, I very much resonate with the notion here of not shaming people into doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, I mean, sometimes it seems like so little, but I think just setting a good example without judgment can help sometimes. But it also takes self-awareness on our own part to be activist in our own life without making judgments on others and leaving that example just out there.
Hmm. Great. So one way is, yeah, like this person is leading by example. You know, I'm not gonna lecture the host of the dinner party about using styrofoam bowls. I'm just gonna bring my own bowl. Why'd you do that? Oh, well, I personally don't want to contribute to the styrofoam, and so the way I do that is I bring this bowl. You know, so other people can be inspired by that, or they can maybe, you know, joke with him or, you know, whatever. But it's very different than the, you know, I had one of my cousins about 15 years ago was dating a vegan, and she got really mad because there was some butter in like the dish she ordered at the restaurant. It's like she made this whole scene. It's like, yeah, we don't want to be that person who makes the scene over, you know, over something. What else? You agree that he's on the same side? What does he mean? Rather, I want to demonstrate we are on the same side.
I think we are on the same side even when growth, personal opinion can be different. Not everyone, and nature shows us this many times, not everything grows or changes at the same rate. I think people are the same. So patience definitely plays a role in that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if what he means by that is that we're all human and we all live in this world together. So it doesn't mean positionally, as far as our stance goes on the issue, it's just, you know, that we're connected.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, I once posted I used to, like, for a while, I got very good at disarming people on Facebook when they were getting angry and snarky. And I once posted something about donating money to Syrian refugees. And somebody posted a very angry note saying, well, what about the people in this country who need help? And I wrote back, I was like, oh, thank you so much for pointing that out. Yeah, there are a lot of other people, and I donate to Second Harvest, and I donate to Wounded Warrior, and I donate to these other things. And today, I'm focusing on these refugees. Is there a charity that you'd like me to highlight on my page? I'd be happy to kind of give it some airtime. And she wrote back very calmly, saying, oh, I'm on the board of the Wounded Warrior Project, and yeah, that's a really wonderful thing. And so I really tried to kind of be on the same side as her. And anyone who's on the board of a national charity very clearly cares very deeply about this. And I don't know, you know, I'll leave aside what made her angry, but I worked very hard to find a way to show that we were on the same side. Briella.
This brought up for me the passage that you put on about the styrofoam, that I have a granddaughter who is now 10 years old, and she's very passionate about the damage that we do by dumping plastic all over the place and in the ocean. And she actually went in front of the board at school and stood on a little raised thing because she's not so tall. And she told them, you know, that the fact that they give out all this plastic flatware at school and that is not good for the life in the ocean, and that she is very concerned about that. And as a result, they stopped doing that. You know, she also went to the market and she sat with a sign and talked to people about that, listened and talked about that.
That's great.
Yeah, and this is a 10-year-old, and you know, her mom is very passionate about that. So she's learned it from there. But I just think as far as patience, it's also action, what we can do. And it isn't about shaming, it's about expressing your grief about what it's doing. And sometimes it works. I think there's now 5 schools in Santa Barbara that don't do that anymore.
Wow. Thank you. That's a wonderful example of kind of leading from your own values. Well, I want us to be able to get into our breakout rooms today. And at the very end of the section, he said, you know, it might take 15 or 50 years to make this change. You know, if we look at the racial issues in the country, if we look at, you know, the policing issues, if we look at the division issues, you know, are these things that we're going to solve right away? I don't know. But so I'd like you with your partner, in addition to a check-in, how might one push for change now while at the same time maintaining the long view? And if you were to try to do both of those things, how might that impact some of the decisions that you're making today? So I'm opening the breakout rooms. Again, if you are not assigned to a room, or if you're in a room, nobody's there, just hang out. I will move you to a different room. Okay, I'm going to stop the share. Harry, do you see the button to join your room? Harry, there should be a screen. There you go. You are joined. Okay. I am now going to pause the recording again. So how was the conversation? Would anyone care to share something about sort of keeping this long view, but at the same time taking action right now?
Our group came to some conclusions about how that looks, and 2 of us had similar experiences, and then we just got that short of time to hear the third one out. So it wasn't quite, it's never enough time, but it was a good discussion what we had.
Good, yeah, I know with 3, it gets a little bit harder sometimes. Second week, I always try to leave a little bit more time for conversation than the first week. Any self-discoveries people would like, or tactics people would care to share?
Yeah, well, you know, just saying to be strong in your own beliefs, you know, and not get like thrown off by what somebody else, you know, might say at you, you know, and try to see the divine spark in people you disagree with, which I think is really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if they're so sure that, you know, I'm wrong, they're right, and all this. But I'm right and they're wrong. No. It's hard to keep an open mind. You know?
Well, you know, it's like the old joke about the couple that goes to the marriage counselor and he says, she does this, this, and this. And the marriage counselor says, you're right. And then she says, well, he does this, this, and this. And he says, you're right. And then they both get mad at him and say, well, what do you mean? You said that I was right. You said that she was right. How can we both be right? You're full of it. And he says, you're right.
That's cute.
And in Judaism, of course, there's more than one right answer.
Right.
You know, this has been making me think, like in the time where I was just kind of sitting and thinking, there's someone who I'm kind of annoyed with who has this really bad habit of just like becoming unresponsive. Like they'll stop responding to texts and emails. And then when we're in conversation, they're like, oh, you're so important to me. And oh, it's so wonderful. And it's really very trying. And I'd finally sort of said, okay, I've kind of had it with this after the last ghosting. And then they got in touch again. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And, you know, again, it's like, well, do I really want to throw off that yoke? Or is there a way that I can reframe things? And so that's kind of what I'm, you know, can I be patient with this stuff and avoid the, you know, because I think just for me, if I didn't get all the, oh, you're so great and you're so important to me, I would be fine with the whole thing. You know, it would just be, wow, we have a great time whenever we're in touch. Unfortunately, we fall out of touch sometimes, and that's just, it is what it is. So that was kind of one of my big insights. Harry, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I had a nice discussion with Ron, and I think, you know, I think patience is what I call situational.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about culture change, like the women's right to vote, like structural, what do you call it? Structural racism.
Mm-hmm.
They take many, many years to change. And I think that's one of the things, but you know, you have to act, you have to do things, but I think you have to be very patient, and it may not happen in your lifetime. I guess is the thing to remember, but to know that you've contributed in some way, I think is really the thing that makes you feel good about it. But hopefully not get disappointed that the change is not fast enough. So that's my thought.
You can't throw off the yoke if the change isn't fast enough. That's what patience is. You have to keep going. You know, you wrote in your letter today how you contacted your congressman and you wrote out, you know, everybody needs to do that, but there's even more that people can do. You just need to be patient, though.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It has to be done with patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I had great like stuckness feeling today. It's like, why do I have to do this? But that doesn't help the cause. That's where I need the patience to kind of alleviate that suffering of the current situation. Like I'm doing what I can do.
You know, it occurs to me that when you're being patient, when you're suffering, which is where you don't want to be patient, whatever that suffering is, that what causes it. When you're suffering, you feel disempowered. You feel helpless. That's part of the problem. And so the reframing that I think has to happen is that you've got to get to a place where you can see what you can do and what you can't do, number one, and then reframe what you can't do as the carrying, and then you're empowered to do that. That's what you're empowered to do. But the rest of it, you gotta let go.
I think when you get impatient.
One more quick comment from John, and then we'll need to do our closing meditation. We can hang out for a few moments afterwards if anyone wishes to continue. John, was there something you wanted to say? And you're mute.
Thank you. Sorry, I was muted. I think sometimes we get so attached to the result, and I'm like that. I want a good outcome. And we don't know what the outcome's going to be most of the time, good or bad. And if I can put the outcome aside and just do what I feel is the right thing to do and not worry so much about the outcome, I have trouble doing that. But I try to you know, not worry so much and anticipate the outcome, try to do what's right, and then be patient.
Thank you, John. That's a wonderful thought for us to bring into our closing meditation. So everyone, please, once again, close your eyes and relax in your chair. And taking a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. As you go at your own pace, if thoughts should come into your head, you can just direct them to that parking place, where they can sit until you choose a time to bring them out. On your next inhale, just feel the spaciousness of the sacred space we've created together. Feel the satisfaction of knowing that we did leave behind these other issues from the outside world. And we did engage in the yoke of this community together. Thank you, friends, so much for being here. Next week, we shall do the second week of patience. I have a small favor to ask. I've put in the chat a link to the American Mussar YouTube channel. I post every recording up there, so if you ever miss a week and you want to find it, that is a great place to go. But if I get enough subscribers to the channel, I can actually change the URL to be YouTube/American Mussar instead of this other thing. So if you wouldn't mind, and if you're into YouTube at all, if you could just subscribe to the channel. I don't do any, I won't sell your information. But if that's something that would interest you, I would appreciate it.
Will do.
Anyone else want to say a hello or any more comments before we go?
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. You make such a difference.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. We all do all of that together. I couldn't make this happen without all of you being here on this journey with me.
I love all of you. You guys make it something I look forward to every Thursday. I live in Canada, you guys, so I know that I'm not American, but wow, I'm loving this. I really am.
Oh, we're in Canada?
You have to be American to do Mussar.
No, I know, but I don't know if there's any Canadians on the site with us, but I'm from Canada.
Canada is part of North American. North America? What do you mean you're not
North
American?
America, yes.
Yeah. What part of Canada?
Closer to Vancouver, BC, British Columbia.
Wow,
so I'm just above San Francisco, north of that area, right?
Oh, I know. I've been there. It's beautiful. I've been
Annie, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say I'm Canadian too, and I'm in British Columbia also.
Oh,
there you go.
Where?
Victoria.
Oh,
that's Toronto. Toronto here. Toronto here.
Okay.
Victoria is the city of my heart.
It's so beautiful.
Mine too. Love it.
Mine too.
Every time I've
been a big sign it says Canadians.
You guys are all so good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now Greg, we've gone international.
Yes.
Hey, Greg, I want to thank you for the kindness and the thoughtfulness and that you lead us with, really, and just feels very, very, just very warm and wonderful. Thank you so much for all these stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, everyone. Well, have a wonderful week. And remember, there's no email next week. There's just a reminder email. So see you next Thursday.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.